Right now, somewhere in Europe or North America, someone is standing in front of an air conditioner that isn't working fast enough. The fan is running. It doesn't help. It's just pushing hot air around a hot room. The walls are warm to the touch. The floor is warm. Even the water from the tap comes out lukewarm, like the whole house has given up. You step outside for 5 minutes to check the mail, and your body immediately regrets it. The pavement is hot enough to feel through your shoes. The air feels thick, almost solid, like you're wading through it instead of breathing it. You go back inside, you get a glass of ice water, you collapse in front of a vent, and you think, only half joking, this might actually kill me. Now take all of that away. No house, no fan, no refrigerator, no ice, no tap water, no sunscreen, no roof, no shade. You didn't build yourself, no weather app warning you it's going to hit 41 degrees today, so maybe stay inside. Ancient humans had a simpler forecast. They looked up. Now put yourself on an open grassland in East Africa. Hundreds of thousands of years ago under a sun that doesn't negotiate. This is where humans evolved. Not in a cool forest, not near a river with shade trees every few steps. On the savannah, one of the most punishing environments on Earth where the temperature can swing past 40 degrees Celsius and there is nowhere to hide from the sun for hours at a time. No modern human could survive out there for a single afternoon dressed the way we dress now, doing what we do now. And yet somehow, our ancestors didn't just survive it. They thrived in it. They hunted in it. They raised children in it. They eventually built entire civilizations because of what that heat forced them to become. So here's the question that should be bothering you right now. While your own AC is losing a fight with the weather, how did a soft, slow, clawless, fangless animal survive in the one environment that should have wiped it out completely? Why didn't it just go extinct the way logic says it should have? The answer is stranger than you think. And here's the twist that makes this whole story worth telling. Heat didn't almost destroy humanity. It built us. Every piece of that answer creates the next problem. Because in that world, solving one way to die just revealed 3 new ones. Let me start with the one thing almost everyone gets wrong. You'd think the danger of heat is simple. Get too hot, your body shuts down like an engine overheating. But it's worse than that and stranger. Push your core temperature high enough and the actual proteins running your cells start to fail. Your brain is especially defenseless against this. And here's the part that should genuinely unsettle you. People dying of heat stroke often don't realize anything is wrong. The heat doesn't just attack the body, it quietly switches off the alarm system first. Heat doesn't announce itself before it kills you. That's what makes it the most patient predator on the savannah. So, on a landscape that could kill you before you even noticed you were dying, our ancestors had what looks, at first glance, like a fatal design flaw. They were covered in fur, and fur should have helped. Every other animal out there wears some version of it. So why would evolution ever throw away a built-in coat in the hottest place on Earth? Here's the catch nobody tells you. Fur doesn't just keep heat out, it traps heat in. If you're trying to release heat from your skin, a thick coat is working against you, like trying to cool off while wrapped in a blanket. So, at some point deep in our evolutionary past, humans did something that sounds insane for a species living under a merciless sun. They started losing their fur and gained something in return that no one expects. Sweat glands, millions of them. Roughly 10 times more than a chimpanzee, our closest living relative. Wait, if more sweat means more cooling, why didn't evolution just do the easy version? Keep the fur and simply add more sweat glands underneath it. Why go through the trouble of losing the coat entirely? Because fur and heavy sweating don't mix. Wet fur clings to skin, blocks airflow, and stops evaporation from doing its job. To use sweat properly, the fur basically had to go. It wasn't an accident, it was a package deal. Here's the moment your entire mental model of annoying, sweaty humans should collapse. Sweating isn't a flaw. It's one of the rarest, most sophisticated cooling systems ever built by evolution. Most mammals cool down by panting. And panting has a brutal limitation. You can't pant hard while sprinting. Your lungs are too busy being lungs. Humans broke that rule entirely. We can sweat and run at the same time, cooling down continuously for hours while breathing normally. Almost no other large mammal on Earth can do that. Sweat is the oldest piece of technology your body still runs. It just never needed a battery. And that one biological glitch turned superpower explains one of the strangest survival strategies in human history. Because our ancestors didn't hide from the deadliest hours of the day. They hunted in them. Picture this. It's noon. The sun is at its most violent. Every predator with any sense, lions, hyenas, leopards, has already given up and collapsed into whatever shade it can find, panting, waiting it out. Wait, if midday is the deadliest window on the savannah, why would anything voluntarily go outside during it? Wouldn't that be the single worst time to be exposed? For every other animal, yes. That's exactly the point. Into that empty battlefield when nothing else dares to move, walks the only mammal still capable of working hard in full sun. This is persistence hunting, and it sounds almost too simple to work. Pick a fast animal, a horse, an antelope, something that could outrun a human in seconds, and just don't stop. Walk, jog, track, never let it fully recover. Here's the twist, that animal is faster than you. It just can't stay that way. Most four-legged runners cool down by panting, and you cannot pant properly while galloping. So its temperature keeps climbing with no way out. Meanwhile, the human behind it is still sweating, still cooling, still moving. Eventually, the animal doesn't get caught because it's slow. It gets caught because its own body turns into a trap. The hunter wins not with claws, not with speed, but by being the last one standing in a war of temperature. While lions were hiding from the sun, and horses were collapsing from heat stress, humans were out there working in the conditions that should have been our execution. That's the exact moment heat stopped being humanity's greatest threat and became its first real weapon. But victory here comes with a price tag, and it's ticking the second the hunt begins. All that sweating is water leaving your body hour after hour under a sun that doesn't care. And on the savannah, running out of water isn't uncomfortable. It's a countdown. Confusion, collapse, death, sometimes within a single afternoon. Wait, so the very system that saved humans from overheating could also be the thing that kills them? Exactly. Sweating didn't erase the danger of heat. It traded one death for a slower, sneakier one. So the variability that let humans dominate the hottest hours of the day was also quietly killing them if they didn't solve the next problem fast enough, which raises the stakes past anything we've covered so far. Losing a hunt cost you dinner. Losing this one could cost your entire family. Imagine a small group moving across open grassland, hours from the last waterhole, a child already flushed and sluggish in the heat, too young to say what's wrong, just quiet in a way that terrifies the adults around her. That is what failing this problem actually looked like. Not an inconvenience, a funeral. So, ancient humans had to become something far more advanced than strong or fast. They had to become expert readers of a landscape that looks to modern eyes like it's hiding nothing at all. Here's the misconception worth destroying right now. We picture deserts and dry grasslands as empty. Ancient humans knew otherwise. The same way you know exactly which cabinet holds the glasses in your own kitchen without looking, they knew where seasonal riverbeds hid water underground, which plants stored moisture like natural canteens, which animal behaviors, at a distance, silently pointed toward a water source no outsider would ever notice. That knowledge wasn't a nice-to-have skill, it was a survival document memorized and passed from parent to child, generation after generation, because forgetting it meant dying of thirst in a place that, to anyone else, looked like nothing. But finding water didn't end the danger. It relocated it. Wait, water is safety. Isn't the hard part over? Once you actually find it, water isn't safety. Water is where everything with teeth already knows to wait. A water hole in a hot, dry landscape isn't just where humans go. It's where everything goes. Predators know it too. And they know exactly where thirsty, exhausted animals are forced to show up. Reaching water safely meant timing, caution, and group awareness, because the very thing keeping you alive could also be the last place you were ever seen. And you can't carry a water hole with you. So, ancient humans needed to solve one more problem stacked on top of all the others. Transport. Something as unglamorous as an ostrich eggshell, a hollowed gourd, or a stitched skin pouch became, quietly, one of the most important inventions in human history. The difference between reaching the next water source alive or not reaching it at all. Solve water, though, and the sun still isn't finished with you. Because on the savannah, shade wasn't comfort. Shade was currency more valuable than food. You can survive several days without eating. Direct, merciless sun exposure during peak heat can kill you in far less time than that. Picture a small group crowded into the only strip of shade for a mile, in complete silence, waiting out the worst hours of the day like sailors riding out a storm. Because the alternative wasn't discomfort, it was a body that couldn't cool itself fast enough. Ancient humans didn't wander randomly through their landscape. Their entire day was built around the sun's position. The same way your day is quietly built around when the office AC actually kicks in. Here's the assumption this destroys. We imagine early humans as constantly hunting, constantly moving, fighting the elements every waking hour, like some kind of prehistoric action montage. In reality, timing might have mattered more than muscle. Knowing precisely when to move and when to disappear into shade wasn't weakness. It was the whole strategy. Shade wasn't where humans hid from the world. It was where they scheduled it. And just when you think the danger has a schedule, that once the sun goes down, you're finally safe. The environment flips the script on you completely. Wait, why not just avoid the sun entirely and live at night instead when nothing is trying to kill you with heat? Because the same environment that punishes you with heat by day often punishes you with cold by night, and a species that had just given up its fur had nothing left to survive that swing. Going fully nocturnal would have solved one death sentence and handed you another. Because a brutal, blistering day in this landscape can end in a night cold enough to be genuinely dangerous. A species that had just spent hundreds of thousands of years shedding the fur that once kept it warm was now facing a temperature crash it had no built-in defense against. So the same body forced to solve extreme heat also had to solve extreme cold, sometimes within the same 24 hours. This is where fire enters the story, and it's bigger than you've been told. Fire wasn't just about warmth at night, though that alone would have been life-saving. Fire meant food could be cooked, making it easier to digest and extract energy from, which quietly lowered the overall cost of feeding a demanding human body and an even more demanding human brain. Fire helped keep dangerous nighttime predators and disease-carrying insects at a distance. Over time, it may have even helped reshape the landscape itself. Here's the moment that should flip your understanding one more time. Fire wasn't only protection from cold. In a strange, indirect way, it also helped humans manage heat by handing them control over when they were active for the first time in their existence, instead of living entirely on the sun's terms. Fire didn't just keep humans warm, it gave them a say in their own schedule for the first time in the species' history. Even clothing refuses to follow the obvious rule. Ask yourself the obvious question first. In the hottest place on Earth, wouldn't wearing less always be the smarter move? Bare skin, every possible breeze, nothing trapping heat against you? Not always. And this is the part almost nobody expects. In the harshest sun-exposed environments, a layer of loose, breathable covering could actually work in your favor, blocking direct solar radiation from ever reaching the skin and slowing how fast you lost water to the heat, while in humid heat, the opposite was true, and lighter coverage let evaporation do its job unobstructed. There was no universal rule. Clothing wasn't about hiding the body from the world, it was about deciding exactly how much sun the body was allowed to fight at once. There was constant situational problem solving, environment by environment, mistake by mistake, and none of it worked alone. A single human, however well adapted, was still fragile against a world this unforgiving. Children were the most vulnerable of all, too small to regulate heat efficiently, completely dependent on adults for water, for shade, for warning signs the child couldn't read yet. Somewhere in that world, a mother is angling her own body between her child and the afternoon sun, using herself as the only shade available. That instinct, multiplied across a group, across a species, across hundreds of thousands of years, wasn't just kindness. It was survival infrastructure, as essential as sweat glands, as essential as fire, and all of it. The sweating, the hunting, the water reading, the fire, the shade, the shared vigilance over the youngest and weakest, was quietly rewriting the human body itself. Longer limbs to help dissipate heat, an upright posture that reduced the surface area facing directly into an overhead sun, compared to walking on four legs. a body increasingly built not for a burst of strength, but for outlasting everything else on the field. You are, at this very moment, walking around in a body that still carries the receipts of that ancient war with the sun. So here's the misconception this entire story has been quietly dismantling since the very first minute. We assume our ancestors survived despite the heat, that it was an obstacle barely overcome, a threat eventually escaped by inventing shelter, clothing, air conditioning. The truth runs in the opposite direction entirely. Heat didn't just test humanity. Heat wrote the specifications. It's why we lost our fur. It's why we sweat instead of pant. It's why we can outlast almost any other mammal alive over long distances, while modern endurance athletes unknowingly train a survival system built for chasing horses across a desert. It's why our bodies are shaped exactly the way they're shaped, why our brains grew the way they grew, why we learned to plan, to remember, to read a landscape like a second language, to protect the smallest and weakest among us like our lives depended on it. Because they did. We didn't conquer the heat by escaping it. We became human by surviving inside it. Generation after generation, mistake after mistake, one merciless afternoon at a time. So, go back to that room you started in. The one with the struggling air conditioner, the lukewarm tap water, the fan doing nothing. Look down at the sweat on your own skin. That's not your body failing to handle the weather. That's the same cooling system that once let a small, slow, unarmed animal walk out into the deadliest hours on the savannah when every lion, every hyena, every horse had already surrendered to the heat and keep walking and keep going and make it to the next day, alive, and the next for a few 100,000 years until eventually it made it all the way to you. You're not just experiencing a hot summer. You're running an inheritance.